You know how announcing a pregnancy is supposed to be magical? Wholesome? Tear-jerking? Yeah, mine came with a side of, what the actual hell? Hey Reddit, I'm Rachel, 29F, and I'm about to take you on a wild ride through what should have been the best moment of my life, but instead turned into the beginning of the most unhinged thing my in-laws have ever pulled. And trust me, that's saying something. So let's rewind. I'm married to Daniel, my best friend, my rock, my go-to. Let's binge Netflix in sweatpants. Person. We've been trying for a baby for what felt like forever. The kind of trying that includes calendars, tears, hope, and way too many awkward doctor visits. So when we finally got that little pink positive line, it felt like we just won the freaking lottery. After ugly crying together on the bathroom floor, we knew this was something we wanted to share, carefully, joyfully, and with the people we thought would be excited for us. Our family? Well, most of them. You see, Daniel's sister Brielle has always been difficult. If Petty had a brand ambassador, it'd be her. Her hobbies include comparing herself to me at every turn, sabotaging conversations with snide comments, and showing up to casual dinners dressed like she's heading to the Grammys. Still, Daniel wanted to be optimistic. Maybe this will bring everyone closer, he said. So we planned a simple dinner party at our place. A few relatives, good food, and the announcement. No confetti cannons. No gender reveal stunts. Just a peaceful night. Of course, peace is the one thing you never get when Brielle is involved. She arrived 30 minutes late, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my entire outfit, full glam, heels clicking like a warning bell. She didn't even look at me when she walked in, just kissed Monica, my mother-in-law, and started gushing about how exhausted she was from her intense Pilates class. QI roll. Dinner went mostly fine, aside from her dominating every conversation and criticizing the wine selection. I served a nice Pinot Noir, but she was in a rose mood. Sorry, Your Highness. Then it was announcement time. Daniel stood up, holding his glass, and said with the goofiest grin on his face, "We have some news." I swear the whole room paused. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear myself breathe. "We're expecting." There was a beat of silence, then cheering, gasps, applause. Monica clapped so hard I thought she'd dislocate a shoulder. George, father-in-law, even wiped his eyes. And me? I was glowing. Except one person wasn't clapping. Wasn't smiling. Wasn't even pretending. Brielle. She just stared at me like someone had personally offended her with the miracle of life. No emotion. No warmth. Just this weird, dead-eyed smile like she was trying not to explode. Eventually, she raised her wine glass and gave the most half-hearted "congrats" I've ever heard, followed by a gulp so aggressive it could have qualified for an Olympic event. And look, I've dealt with her being cold. Being competitive. But this was different. Colder. Weirder. As people began to trickle out, she slithered over to me in the kitchen like a damn soap opera villain and said, "Congrats. Just remember, pregnancy changes a lot more than you think." Then walked off like she dropped a mic instead of an ominous, creepy red flag. At the moment, I chalked it up to Brielle being her usual passive-aggressive self. A buzzkill, sure, but not dangerous. But over the next few days, something gnawed at me. That look in her eye. That tone in her voice. The weird way she hovered all evening like she was waiting for something. And as it turns out, she wasn't just mad. She was plotting. What came next? I couldn't have predicted it in 1,000 years. The day after the pregnancy reveal dinner, I woke up feeling off. Not like, "Oh, I stayed up too late eating cheesecake." Off. This was deep in your bones wrong. I was dizzy. Nauseated. Couldn't keep anything down. At one point, I couldn't even walk straight without gripping the counter. At first, Daniel chalked it up to early pregnancy symptoms. I mean, nausea is normal, right? But I knew my body. And this wasn't just morning sickness. This was chemical. By mid-afternoon, I was on the bathroom floor, shaking, clutching my stomach, trying not to throw up again. Daniel rushed me to the ER. Doctors ran blood work, fluids, the works. When they came back with results, their expressions told me something wasn't right. The doctor sat down, all serious like she was about to tell me I had a week to live. "We found traces of aspirin and ibuprofen in your system." High enough to be dangerous, especially for a pregnancy. Let me tell you, nothing will freeze your brain faster than hearing you've been drugged. While pregnant, I hadn't touched any over-the-counter meds in weeks. I'd been extremely careful since the test came back positive. Every label checked. Every ingredient was Googled twice. So naturally, the doctor asked if I'd taken anything recently. Tylenol, Advil, anything. No, I said. Then Daniel spoke up. She had one glass of punch at the dinner party. And that's when it clicked. Because I hadn't poured that glass. Brielle had. She'd handed it to me with that big fake smile, like she was finally being nice. I remember it so clearly now, her watching me take that first sip. Hovering. Smirking. Asking if it was too sweet. Back then, I thought she was just being her usual fake self. Now I realized, she was checking to make sure it was working. My skin crawled. My stomach flipped for a whole new reason. We told the ER staff. They documented everything. The nurse's face when we explained the situation, pure horror. They kept me overnight for monitoring. I was hooked to N4, praying that the baby, whom we'd already nicknamed Bean, was okay. Ultrasound came back clear. The heartbeat was strong. I sobbed for 10 straight minutes. Daniel sat next to me the whole time, hand in mine, his face somewhere between fury and disbelief. This wasn't some messy family fight. This was intentional harm. I didn't sleep that night. Too many thoughts were spiraling. Was she trying to hurt me? Was she aiming for the baby? Was this a prank that went too far, or something worse? The next morning, I filed a police report. It wasn't dramatic. I wasn't screaming or demanding handcuffs. I just calmly walked in and said, "I think someone in my family tried to poison me." The officer blinked. Asked me to sit. I told them everything, the drink, the ER visit, the test results, the family party. They took it very seriously. Daniel gave his statement, too. We mentioned Brielle's weird comment, her history, and the creepy way she'd acted that night. When we left, I felt like I'd swallowed cement. I kept trying to convince myself I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. I could feel it. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This wasn't a joke. This was a warning shot. 2 days later, a detective followed up with us. That's when everything started unraveling, and Brielle's mask came crashing down. A few days after filing the police report, Detective Lyman showed up at our door with a notebook, a polite but serious expression, and the kind of tone that says, "We're taking this very seriously, ma'am." He'd already interviewed a few people from the party. Monica, my mother-in-law, had mentioned that Brielle was acting a little strange that night. Strange how? Oh, you know Brielle. She shrugged. She was a bit quiet, but I figured she was just tired. Or being dramatic. She gets like that. Daniel and I exchanged glances. That wasn't tired. That was premeditated and cold. Detective Lyman asked me to recount every detail again. What I ate, what I drank, where I was sitting, who handled my food. I told him about the punch. How I hadn't poured it myself. How Brielle had handed it to me, unsolicited. He nodded. Took notes. Didn't say much. But then came the kicker. We'd like to ask her a few questions. If there's anything else you haven't told us, now's the time. I was silent for a second. Then I added. Before I drank it, she said something weird. Something like, "Don't get too comfortable." He blinked. That's not the kind of thing most people say when congratulating someone. Exactly. Brielle was called in for questioning the next day. And in true villain fashion, she tried to play it off. What? It was just a prank. It was ibuprofen, not poison. I didn't know she was pregnant for real. Oh, you didn't know? You mean the thing we announced with literal words at dinner? The thing you were in the room for? Brielle swore it was a joke. She said she was just trying to loosen me up. And maybe the dosage was a little much, but I wasn't trying to hurt her. That's right, she admitted to it. Admitted. But framed it like she was some YouTube prankster pulling off a gotcha moment. Not someone who could have caused a miscarriage. Daniel was livid. We had a call with Detective Lyman later that evening, and he sounded disgusted. She's claiming it was a harmless prank, but the dosage was dangerously high for someone pregnant, and she knew. They had enough to proceed. And as the case gained traction, Brielle went from smug and dismissive to full-on damage control mode. She started reaching out. Calling Daniel. Messaging me. Posting vague nonsense on social media like, "Some people just want to ruin your life with lies. It was just a joke. People are too sensitive these days. Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone call the ambulance for the consequences of your actions?" The kicker? She showed up at our front door. Daniel opened it before I could stop him, and there she was, no makeup, hair a mess, looking nothing like her usual curated Barbie persona. "I just want to talk to Rachel," she said, all teary-eyed and breathy. Daniel shut that down immediately. "She doesn't want to talk to you. You're lucky she hasn't pressed more charges." And then, get this, she had the nerve to play the victim. "I'm losing everything. Zach is furious. Mom and Dad think I'm a monster." I just wanted to scare her a little. "I didn't know it'd go this far." Let that sink in. She tried to scare me. While I was pregnant. With medication that could have hurt me or the baby. And now she wanted sympathy? That night, I sat down with Daniel and said the words I'd been holding back. "I don't want her anywhere near me. Ever again." He nodded without hesitation. "I'm done with her, too." It was the first time in years he truly cut the cord. And I could see how much it cost him, the weight of family guilt, years of blind loyalty. But he did it. Because now it wasn't about keeping the peace. It was about keeping me, and our baby, safe. And the law? It was just getting started. 2 weeks later, we got the call. Charges were being filed. Not just a warning. Not a slap on the wrist. Not a, "let's all move on" conversation. Actual criminal charges. The list included reckless endangerment, attempted assault, and, get this, tampering with food or drink with intent to cause harm. A felony in our state. When I tell you the silence on Daniel's end of the line was loud. He looked at me after hanging up and said, in the flattest tone possible, "Brielle's going to court." I expected to feel terrified. Shaken. Anxious. Instead, I felt calm. Not because I enjoy drama, but because, for once, someone in authority was backing me up. I wasn't being too sensitive. I wasn't misreading things. What happened was real, and it was serious. And Brielle? She still didn't get it. Her lawyer tried to spin the whole thing as a sibling rivalry that went too far. Except I wasn't her sibling. And drugging a pregnant woman isn't what normal people do when they feel left out. The first court date was surreal. I walked in, hand on my barely there baby bump, and saw Brielle sitting at the defendant's table looking like a fallen pageant queen. No designer clothes this time. No fake lashes. Just a pale face and shaking hands. She wouldn't even look at me. But her lawyer? Full of confidence. He stood up and said, "My client acknowledges her actions were misguided, but there was no intent to cause serious harm." Misguided. Right. Like this was a poorly worded tweet, not a literal chemical assault. Daniel sat beside me, fists clenched. I could feel the tension rolling off him like heat. But then came the real betrayal. Monica stood up. Took the stand. And did exactly what we feared. She defended Brielle. "She made a mistake," she said, voice trembling just enough to sound believable. "She didn't mean to hurt anyone. Rachel's exaggerating. It was one glass of punch, not poison." Daniel's jaw locked. My stomach turned. I wasn't shocked. Not really. Monica had always babied Brielle. Always made excuses. Always said things like, "She's just emotional. She has a hard time expressing herself. You know how dramatic she can be." But seeing her stand there in court, under oath, minimizing what could have ended my pregnancy, it hit different. It was the exact moment I mentally cut her out of my life. No dramatic speech. No confrontation. Just a cold, permanent mental block. Daniel later told me that was the moment he cut her off, too. The court date ended with the judge declining to dismiss the charges. They were moving forward. Trial set for 6 weeks out. Brielle cried as she left the courtroom, crocodile tears soaking her tissue. Zach, her husband, looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. And as we left the building, Monica had the nerve to come up to us. "You're going to go through with this?" she asked, like she was talking about returning a sweater, not pressing charges for something that could have put me in a hospital, or worse. I didn't answer her. Didn't flinch. Just walked right past her. Because the thing about people like Monica? They're only sorry when the consequences come knocking. Daniel didn't speak the whole car ride home. But that night, he did something I'll never forget. He packed a box of old photos, gifts, and letters from his mom, taped it shut, and put it in the hall closet. "I'm not burning it," he said. "But I'm not unpacking it again either." It was quiet, but it said everything. We were moving forward. And they were staying behind. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not just temperature-wise though, yeah, I should have brought a thicker sweater, but in energy. That kind of cold where tension hangs in the air like fog, and every seat squeaks just a little too loudly. I sat beside Daniel, fingers laced tightly together. My bump was finally starting to show, and I had one hand resting over it, a subconscious protective reflex I couldn't turn off. Brielle sat across the room, pretending to be fragile. Her hair was down. Minimal makeup. Soft cardigan. The kind of look that screams, "I'm just a misunderstood girl," to a jury of strangers. She avoided eye contact. Fine by me. The prosecution opened strong. Laid out the facts. Medical records. My hospital stay. The test results showing dangerous levels of ibuprofen and aspirin in my bloodstream. The punch. Her confession during police questioning. Then it was my turn. I stepped up to the stand, heartbeat in my ears. I didn't write a speech. Didn't practice dramatic pauses or rehearse how to cry on cue. I just told the truth. We'd been trying for years. To get pregnant, I mean. It wasn't easy. And when it finally happened, we were so excited. I wanted to share that moment with family. I looked toward the jury. Some were leaning forward, nodding slightly. Brielle handed me a drink. One glass. I didn't think anything of it. Why would I? She's my sister-in-law. I trusted her. And within hours I was in the ER, terrified that I was losing my baby. The room went still. You could hear the creak of someone shifting in their seat, the silence swallowing every word I spoke. I didn't shout. I didn't sob. But I made sure they heard the weight in every syllable. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was dangerous. And if it weren't for dumb luck and a quick hospital visit, I might not be sitting here with this pregnancy still intact. Brielle's attorney objected to something. Tone? Phrasing? Whatever. The judge waved it off. I stepped down, my knees a little shaky, but my spine straight as a steel beam. I'd said what I came to say. Next, they brought in the nurse from the ER, calm, professional, precise. She confirmed that what I had in my system could have caused a miscarriage. And then Zach, Brielle's husband, took the stand. Bro, when I say jaws dropped, he didn't defend her. He looked like he wanted to disappear completely. She told me she was mad. She said Rachel was acting like she was better than everyone just because she was pregnant. I didn't know she put something in the drink until she admitted it after the police came. Let me repeat that. Her husband threw her under the bus. In open court. Brielle's eyes went wide. She didn't cry. Didn't even blink. Just sat there like her whole world was disintegrating. And honestly, it kind of was. Her mask, the victim act, the misunderstood. I was just joking. Persona, it all cracked in front of a courtroom full of strangers. By the end of the day, the prosecution rested. The defense tried to salvage things, painting her as emotionally fragile, isolated, acting out of misplaced insecurity. But it was over. Even the jury looked over it. You could see it in their faces. They weren't buying it. Not after hearing everything. Not after seeing her sit stone-faced while everyone else cried and trembled and broke open with honesty. When the court adjourned that day, Daniel hugged me and whispered, "You were perfect." And for the first time in months, I believed him. Not because I was confident or poised or brave, but because I finally said the thing I'd been holding in since that night in the kitchen when she handed me that drink. She knew what she was doing. And now? So did everyone else. The court reconvened 2 weeks later. Daniel and I sat in the same seats. My bump was a little bigger, my back a little sorer, and my nerves sharper than ever. Brielle walked in with her lawyer, Still rocking that tragic innocent look, the cozy cardigan, the wide eyes, the pulled back hair. It was all there, like some last-ditch attempt to look like the victim instead of the villain. She glanced at me once. I didn't blink. Didn't nod. Didn't acknowledge her at all. Because by then, there was nothing left to say. The jury took less than 2 hours. 2 hours to decide if what she did was a joke, or a crime. When the foreperson stood up and read the verdict, it was surreal. "We find the defendant guilty on all counts." The room didn't gasp. It just exhaled. Brielle didn't cry. She didn't faint. She just sat there like her body had finally caught up to the consequences she thought would never reach her. The judge issued the sentence right then and there. 6 months in county jail. 2 years probation. Court-mandated counseling. And a permanent restraining order barring her from contacting me or the baby. It wasn't a life sentence. But it was enough. Enough to send a message. Enough to finally draw a line in the sand that she couldn't tiptoe over with tears and fake apologies. After the court adjourned, Daniel and I didn't speak. We just walked out, holding hands, the cool air outside feeling sharper and cleaner than it had in months. We didn't go to lunch. We didn't celebrate. We went home and sat in silence for a while, both absorbing what had just happened. Then Daniel broke it. "She's gone. She can't come near us again." I nodded. "Neither can your mom." He didn't flinch. Didn't argue. I know. Because while Brielle had stirred the poison, Monica had stirred the denial. Enabled it. Protected it. And in some ways, that betrayal cut deeper than the drugged punch ever could. That week, we wrote Monica a letter. No drama. No emotion. Just facts. We wouldn't be seeing her anymore. She wasn't welcome in our home. When the baby was born, she wouldn't be part of his life. And if she tried to go through Daniel, or go behind my back, we'd pursue legal options again. Monica didn't respond. But she did post some vague Facebook rant about losing family to lies and drama. Classic. I let her have her little tantrum. That was the last act of a woman who lost control, and knew she wasn't getting it back. Daniel's dad, George, reached out privately, though. Said he was ashamed. Said he wished he'd spoken up in court. Said he knew Monica had gone too far. We told him he could meet the baby. On our terms. The rest of the family? Split right down the middle. Some believed us. Some defended her. And the rest did what cowards do, stayed silent and hoped the dust would settle. But that's the thing about poison. Once it spreads, there's no going back to before. You just build new walls, plant fresh seeds, and protect your peace like it's sacred. Because now? It is. The day our son was born was quiet. Calm. No chaos. No guilt-tripping texts. No family members hovering in the waiting room, waiting to make it about themselves. Just me, Daniel, and the tiny human we'd been waiting for since before the storm began. We named him Eli. And when I held him in my arms, all 7 pounds and 6 ounces of him, with those scrunched up little fists and soft newborn wails, I realized something huge. Brielle didn't win. She tried to ruin that moment, the entire journey. She tried to take it from me out of jealousy, insecurity, whatever twisted logic had been circling her head like vultures. But she failed. And I survived it. Not just physically. Emotionally. Spiritually. And I came out stronger than I ever thought possible. That first week at home with Eli, I had a lot of late-night feedings to think about everything. All the family drama, courtroom visits, and all the therapy sessions. All the emotional landmines I'd spent years dancing around just to keep the peace. And the conclusion I came to? Peace that's built on silence and self-sacrifice isn't peace. It's control. It's manipulation dressed up in family photos and holiday dinners and that's just how she is. Excuses? So I stopped trying to fix what I didn't break. I stopped making room at my table for people who brought nothing but knives. Daniel? He made peace with it too. He went from, "I just want everyone to get along," to, "I just want to protect my wife and son." And honestly, it made me fall in love with him all over again. We've built new traditions now. Sunday morning walks to the park. Bedtime stories every night. Birthdays are where everyone gets more than a cupcake and a fake smile. Holidays that don't include keeping secrets to avoid confrontation. And Eli? He'll grow up in a house where he knows what real love feels like. Where family means safe, not scary. Where I love you doesn't come with conditions. As for Brielle, she served her time. Moved states from what we heard. Divorce pending. Zach wants nothing to do with her. Monica? Still sulking in Facebook comments and playing the martyr. And guess what? Not our problem. Because we don't owe anything to people who were only ever loyal to their narrative. Not forgiveness. Not closure. Not access. Sometimes healing means drawing a boundary so high and so solid, even your guilt can't climb it. And I'm okay with that. Better than okay. I'm free. So, Reddit, here's my question for you. If someone in your family betrayed you this badly, tried to harm you out of jealousy, and called it a joke, would you ever forgive them? Or is there a line that, once crossed, stays crossed forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I know I'm not the only one who's had to choose peace over blood. And remember, it's not your job to keep a toxic family together. It's your job to protect the one you're building. Catch you in the next one, Reddit. And hold that boundary tight.